So, I'm sure that you guys are more than aware that we are approaching the end of the unit. As I just said, our exam is coming up this Thursday and Friday. Thursday will be the multiple choice test. Friday will be our essay test. Friday will not probably be the whole day devoted to the test. We'll probably have a little bit something to do first and then have your essay after. Notice a lot of this is the same as it was yesterday, a few differences, but for the most part, we're going to continue on what we were talking about to make sure that we really understand it. Genetic drift and gene flow is kind of complicated, and I want to make sure that we understand it before we close out the unit. Alrighty, so again, take note of your assign yourself. Your CK through 12 again hasn't changed. It's the same as last week. Make sure that you're catching up on it so that we can be ready for our test on Thursday. Okay, here we go with our do now. I'm sure this has happened in a lot of your other classes. The principal this morning really wants us to make sure we're pushing the 100% completion on exit tickets. So for our do now today, you are working on your exit tickets. If not for my class, then for other classes. If you've completed all of your exit tickets, then you're going to be working on your independent practice or any kind of missing work. I would recommend a lot of you, y'all missed the mid unit 1 exam. So our first test from a long time ago. I was going back over some grades and there were quite a few of you who did not even take it. So I reopened both the mid unit exam and our unit 1 exam. So if you want to be working on that during our warm up, that's fine. Just know that I went ahead and reopened them. If you did the extra credit, I have already applied that to your grade, so that should be reflected in your average right now on PowerSchool. But know that we're entering into the last of the grading period. So this is like week before the end. I think next week the 9 weeks is over. Okay, so these of you did not do your exit take yesterday. Rest of you are working on your independent practice or you're working on missing work.
Wait, we're just spending the class doing missing work?
No, the do now. Just next 5 minutes. Oh, I didn't realize there were so many things in the chat.
Mr. Whisker.
Let's see. Have you ever just ate the seaweed that you use to make sushi? When I was growing up, actually, my mom would give it to us as a snack. It's called the nori, right? She read somewhere in some magazine that it was good for you. Didn't like it. Mian's calm. Casey used to think the spoon of McDonald's flurry was a straw. I used to think that too. In fact, I don't think I ever realized that it wasn't a straw. Is it not a straw? Faye, chill, tired. Kaylin shouting she's calm.
Mr. Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
The hole in the spoon for the McFlurry is supposed to be so that they can put the blending thingy inside of it and blend the McFlurry.
What? Really?
Yes.
That's crazy. I had no idea. I always
Yeah,
thought it was a straw. In my defense, I don't think I've ever had one.
Wait, you've never had a McFlurry?
So when I was growing up, I would go to McDonald's a lot, but I wasn't allowed to get the food. So I've seen a lot of the food. I haven't eaten a lot of it.
You weren't allowed to get McDonald's.
My mom was one of those moms that was really, really like obsessed with trying to make sure I didn't have any sugar.
Oh, that's okay.
You didn't miss a lot, Mr. Martinez. Honestly, you did not miss a lot.
Well, I've made up for it in the years after. So I do like McDonald's breakfast, but I don't like the sandwiches. I don't like the burgers. Fries are good, but I don't like anything else. I don't think. Gigi, I'm right there with you. I don't drink any coffee. I have not had coffee since I went to college, like 10 years ago. I don't even like the smell. I don't like the smell. Don't like the flavor. Not a coffee fan. And I've heard that cold coffee is actually worse for you than hot coffee.
I don't know how people drink cold coffee.
Timothy, that is a weird looking car. Is that even a car? Faye's awake now. So glad you're awake now, Faye. Oh, Kaylin also used it as a straw. That's funny. Yeah, so Zaria, whenever I was growing up, we would have, if I was like feeling particularly bad, I would go to Dairy Queen. That's where we would get our dessert stuff. Ooh,
Wait a
Faye
minute,
getting
Mr. Raymond, did you literally just say Dairy Queen?
Mm-hmm. We'd get blizzards.
I love Dairy Queen.
Me too. That was our treat. Our treat was Dairy Queen.
Yeah, their milkshakes are really good.
And the only reason it was Dairy Queen and not McDonald's was because my mom had her sister work there, and so we would go and get free ice cream.
Yeah, because actually, when a long time ago, when I tried the milkshake at McDonald's, and it was fish, but their milkshake was not good at McDonald's. And I'm probably gonna say this, but their eggs, like with the big breakfast with the pancake, sausage, and hash brown and biscuit, them eggs ain't good either.
Okay, we're approaching the end of our time pretty quick, the next 30 seconds. Make sure that if you haven't, that you get to your exit ticket. I hope that now you're getting at your understanding that it's very important that we're getting these done because we're not going to stop bothering you until everybody gets them done and until we're at 100% completion for everybody. So please, please, please make sure that you're getting those exit tickets finished. It'll make our lives easier, it'll make your lives easier, and everybody will be happy, right? Okay. That is about time. Okay. Let's move on. Actually, no, wait, before I move on. So like I said, I was updating your grades earlier. A lot of you have not turned in your mid-unit 1 exam, so MUE 1 and your unit 1 exam. I went ahead and reopened them because any grade is better than a 0. You might not get full credit, but again, anything is better than having nothing. So just keep that in mind. If you don't remember taking those, send me a message if you don't remember and I can let you know. But just heads up, because those are summative grades. They carry a lot more weight. So even if you had like 100 average, but you had like a 0 test average, you're going to come out to like worse than a 50. So just keep that in mind. Okay, objective, we're not going to read it because it's the same as yesterday. Gene flow, genetic drift, natural selection, and all that stuff, right? So before we get into what we're doing today, I wanted to watch a short video on coevolution.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, go for it.
No, I'm just checking. Thank you.
Okay. Let me fix the volume real quick. Oh, I still can't see it. There we go.
Still can't hear it, sir.
Oh, Zaria says she can't hear it. Just to make sure, I'm going to reshare it. Okay.
It's hard to do, but 140 million years ago, this landscape would have looked completely different. We'd see pterosaurs flying through the sky, tiny rat-like mammals on the ground, and of course, dinosaurs. Plants first colonized land about 450 million years ago, but their first 300 million years, there wasn't a single flower to be found. Plants were limited to things like ferns, conifers, ginkgos, cycads. At the same time, there were plenty of insects that we'd recognize today, but no bees. Then suddenly, in the early Cretaceous, something amazing happened. It was like bam, flowers everywhere. Charles Darwin called flowers' sudden arrival in the fossil record an abominable mystery. Today, there's somewhere between 300 and 500,000 species of angiosperms, making up 9 out of every 10 plants on Earth. Once flowers arrived on the scene, their branch in the tree of life really blossomed. Get it? Blossom? Why were flowers such a big deal? Well, plants have a pretty tough love life. Ooh, that one? Very pretty. Why don't you just go over and talk to it? Oh, right, you can't. You're attached to the ground. Oh, be cool, it's looking. Despite being rooted to the ground, different types of plants have evolved different strategies for exchanging sex cells with far-off partners. Non-flowering plants like conifers rely mostly on the wind to deliver their pollen, but it's pretty inefficient. Kind of like writing a love letter to your sweetheart, putting it in a bottle, and casting it out to sea. Probably not gonna work, Romeo. Apologies if this ruins your next anniversary, but flowers are actually reproductive organs. And in order to increase the chance of fertilizing another plant, angiosperms have recruited their own special delivery service: insects. Lots of people think that nectar is the main reason that insects visit plants, but that's not how it started 150 million years ago. It's this stuff. This is a magnolia tree, one of the oldest flowering plant species still around today. Their flowers don't produce nectar. Instead, insects like beetles are after its pollen. Pollen is more than just the plant's genetic material. It's super nutritious. The earliest pollinators came to eat this stuff, and they just so happened to drop a few crumbs along the way. This relationship, which we call mutualism, worked really well. Flowering plants pollinated by insects had an advantage over their wind-dependent cousins and exploded and diversified. Insects now had a delicious reason to visit flowers, and flowers had a good reason to attract their hungry little cupids. This started an evolutionary advertising war. First, white flowers, then bright-colored flowers, weird-shaped flowers, intoxicating perfumes. All of them were like big neon signs. And to get a stem up on the competition, some flowers started to sweeten the deal with a sip of sugary nectar. And that's where these ladies come onto the scene, nature's finest flower farmers. Honeybees, with their elaborate hive societies and, well, honey, are by far the most famous, but many modern species of bees live alone, and that gives us a hint to their origin. By studying things like DNA and anatomy, we know that bees evolved from solitary carnivorous wasps. These wasps would stock their nests with insect corpses. If that insect had recently visited a flower, its corpse might be dusted with a little bit of pollen. Over time, some wasps replaced their dead insect diet with more and more protein-rich pollen. Bees are essentially wasps turned vegetarian. So plants were making flowers and insects were pollinating them long before bees ever took to the air. But it was these special insects with their special adaptations that let flowering plants completely dominate the world like they do today. When it comes to pollinating, nothing does it better than a bee. They have unique UV vision to home in on flower patterns we can't see with our eyes, bristly hairs to collect huge baskets of pollen, special long tongues to slurp up nectar. After the meteor impact that killed most of the dinosaurs, it was bees that allowed flowering plants to recover, and the fruits that those plants produced let mammals, big and small, fill the roles once occupied by dinosaurs. So while we rely on bees for a lot today, they pollinate about 1/3 of the crops we eat. Without them, we might never have evolved in the first place. So next time you stop and smell the flowers, thank the bees that got there first. Stay curious.
So I really like this video. I hope you guys can understand why I showed it to you, because this guy never mentioned coevolution, right? That word did not appear at all in the video. Does anybody think they can explain the relationship between coevolution and what we just saw? Oof, no brave takers. Let's make it simpler then. Does anybody know what the prefix co means? If you're an Office fan, like a co-manager, Jim and Michael were co-managers of The Office for a while. Does anybody think? Doesn't necessarily mean two.
Is
Where
it
they
like
both help each other?
Right, so if you had to simplify that a little bit more.
A plant and an insect?
You're getting ahead of it. I'm just
Can you hear
asking what
me?
the prefix prefix co means. I think Casey tried
Wait,
to
is
say
it
something earlier.
together?
It is. It means together. So, for example, that Jim and Michael thing, when they were working in the office, they were doing the same job together, right? They were co-managers. So, when we're talking about co-evolution, how do you think that works?
Wait, isn't coevolution as one species changes, the other species must also change in order to adapt?
There you go. You got it. So, who thinks they can put that then in perspective with what we just saw with flowers and bees?
Is it the mutualism in flowers and bees? Or
It is. So the mutualism is the relationship, but coevolution is the mechanism. So what about their mutualistic relationship helped them to evolve together?
Wait, can you repeat that? You said like, how does the evolution help them survive together, or?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go ahead and just so we don't waste too much time. So coevolution basically means they're evolving together. So the video shows you 1 billion years ago, right? There's just dinosaurs, and you had a whole bunch of things like trees and gymnosperms, whatever. So those are like ferns. Like when we talked about succession, right? Primary succession, you had those lichens break down rocks, and that's where the soil came from. And then eventually you got more and more plant diversity. So a long time ago, they were just trees for the most part, and grass, ferns, that sort of thing. There wasn't any flowers, but then something happened that suddenly made it more possible for the flowers to thrive. And what happened was they started to evolve with the insects. So there were insects a long time ago. So back in dinosaur times, there were still like, mosquitoes like you see in Jurassic Park, right? So there were mosquitoes and other insects flying around. And then something happened to the plant population to make it to where it was a lot more beneficial for them to be around. So there are gymnosperms and angiosperms, just to give you some context. So the gymnosperms, like I mentioned in the video, those are like trees. They don't produce any fruit. Then you have angiosperms, which do. So flowers, even though you might not think of it that way, are typically fruit-producing plants. So when you think of like an orange tree, right? That orange represents those reproductive structures. So like when you're eating those fruits, they have seeds, right? That's what you need to plant a new species or a new plant, right? That's the reproductive organ. That's part of the reproductive process. Now, plants can't move, right? They don't have feet, so they can't get around. So they needed something to be able to get their reproductive cells from one place to another, and that's where the insects came in. So initially you had those wasps that weren't like the bees. The wasps were predatory and they ate insects. But slowly over time, they evolved to want to eat the pollen, which had that protein-rich content. And then the nectar, which is that sweet, sugary smell that you get around flowers, is what's attracting the pollinators now. So, coevolution, I don't expect it to show up on the star. I just wanted to throw it in there because it is part of the whole evolution discussion. The reason I bring this up is because we're talking about evolution happening to populations, right? But there is something even more important to consider is how evolution is happening to populations plural. So some populations will evolve in response to another. Sometimes you see this with like flowers and bees. Sometimes you'll see this with predator and prey, right? The prey that runs away fastest has certain modifications that help it outrun a predator. Those traits are passed on. The predator, meanwhile, also has traits that are beneficial to catching that prey. And those that can eat and survive and reproduce pass on their traits. So it's a two-way street. It happens to the predator, happens to the prey, happens to the flowers, happens to the bees. That's essentially coevolution. So like I said, I don't know if it's going to show up on the star. It might. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce the topic to you just to kind of show you coevolution. That populations change over time, and that doesn't necessarily happen in a vacuum. It happens in the world, right? There are other things happening besides just that one population changing. Okay. Okay. I don't know if I have enough time to go back and review everything. I wanted to make sure that we were good on alleles. Does anybody have any questions about genes and alleles? I know that was kind of a tough concept to master last time. Are there any questions about that? I'm going to take that as a no.
No
Remember
question.
that genes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No question.
Yeah. Remember that genes are the actual locations of the trait. It's like where it is in the DNA. And the alleles are going to be the traits themselves. So for example, if you have a hair color gene, that hair color gene is a certain part of the DNA. And then your hair color trait, you're going to have an allele from your mom and your dad. So you have a brown hair allele or a blonde hair allele, right? It's just referring to the traits. It's not working on my side. Okay, let me let Janae in real quick. While I do that, go ahead and pull out your independent practice from yesterday, the 5 scenarios. I wanted to go over the answers with you real quick. I think 1 or 2 of you asked actually to make sure that I go over it. So I wanted to make sure that we looked at it real quick before we moved on to our next thing. Mechanisms, 5 scenarios. There we go. Okay. And Janae should be in now. All right. So I'll give you a couple seconds. I hope you had time to pull this out. Okay. Does anybody want to go over number 1? Was that you, Brandon? I can't quite hear you.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, go for it.
Number 1, it's flowing.
That's true, but why? Walk us through it. How'd you get there?
Well, basically, like the flow between men and females, like when the females try to stay with the troops, it will be younger or less dominant for the males have to leave for them to join a neighborhooding troop. But also, common baboons live in an area in breeding groups, which we call the troops. That's why they call it the flow.
You're close. Does anybody have another opinion about why we're looking at flow for the first one?
Because when they go to a different troop, each different species of baboons go into a different neighboring troop, which means basically it's swapping from one gene to another. And also by reproducing from the female, it also mixes in with that familiar baboon and that one, making it one other new baboon species.
Right. It does. I mean, saying a new species might go a little bit off topic, but yeah, that's essentially what's going to happen. We're not told that, but you can assume that. So we'll to make it simpler, we've got one population, right? So the breeding group. And so if these younger males are not able to reproduce, they're going to leave. So the genes are flowing out of that population, right? That's why it's gene flow, because the genes that were there are having to go somewhere else because they are not able to survive, or they're not able to be passed on in that reproductive circle. So this has to do with something called sexual selection, which I talked a little bit about a while back. What that means is that in the wild, you have to kind of compete for mates. You don't really get to pass on your genes unless you have a certain kind of ability, be it, like peacocking, how the peacocks have pretty feathers. Usually in the simian species, like with these apes, you have to kind of like physically compete, and the alpha male is the one that usually gets to have reproductive rights. They're very, very complex depending on the species that you're looking at, from birds to insects to apes. Everybody has their own rituals. They all have their own kind of procedures. It's very, very different from the way that we do it. And yet, not that different. Like peacocking, for example, is a verb because that's how it is in the human world too, right? You want to dress up nice, you want to attract attention by looking good. That's part of sexual selection. You're looking better, which means you have a better chance of passing on your traits. Okay, so that was number 1. Number 2, anybody want to try and get that one? Thank you, Denise, by the way.
I can try.
Go for it.
I think it's drift because the 2 species, it said that they wouldn't like interbreed, which means the genetic variation would come from like mutations and stuff.
Right. So what's happening here is that we have two trees that don't interbreed, right? So we're not having any kind of flowing. Like Casey said a second ago, I thought it was because an organism is moving out of population. That's true, right? Whenever an organism moves out of a population, those genes are flowing out. In scenario 2, we're having the opposite of that, right? We've got these two species of trees, but they do not interbreed with each other, right? So there is no flowing going on between them. So what's going to happen is that over time, those two species are going to become more and more separate. And that's how you get genetic drift, because they are drifting apart. So whatever common ancestor they might have shared, they're going to continue to move further and further apart. They're drifting because they cannot transfer genes between each other. That's how you get those different species. Very good, Bryden. Thank you. All right, number 3. Anybody want to tackle that?
All right. This one's drift because it was hunted to near extinction, and as the population has been recovering, the result to the population of Bison will be with a little genetic variation, and that's it.
Okay. Brandon's right in that it's pretty simple. What happens is that here we've got a population that has no movement, right? We've got American bisons that are hunted to near extinction. So if you remember the picture that we saw with the foot stepping on the beetles, right? We're getting rid of a lot of genes. Like a lot of these bison are being removed from the population. They're not necessarily flowing because there's nothing, they're not necessarily leaving the population. They are being killed, right? They're being extinct. So if they're being hunted near extinction, you're only left with a couple of genes at the very end of it. And those genes are the ones that are going to continue to multiply because that's all there is in the gene pool. And so that's how you get the drifting effect again, because we're not getting any flow, we're getting a drift. Very good. All right, number 4. Anybody want to tackle this one? Man, you guys are quiet today.
All right. Number 4, right?
Well, you've gone twice, Brandon. Let's let somebody else go.
Okay.
Wait, you said number 5, sir?
Number 4.
Oh, okay. I could do 5, but I don't want to do 4.
Okay, go for 5. What is 5 then?
Can I check my answer real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, while Hamza looks up his answer, I'm going to go ahead and do 4. So we've got this bird population with 2 different beak sizes. Now what's happening is that those beaks are perfectly adapted to their environment, right? So you're not going to get a whole lot of variation with those beak sizes because those beaks are dependent on the seeds. So you're getting a drifting, right? You're getting further speciation. You're not getting a flowing of traits because the birds are trying to get the food, right? So the birds who can get the food have the traits that are going to be passed on. So you get a further isolation of those genes, right? There's no new genes coming in. There's no genes really coming out. You're just getting those genes that are the species that have the highest fitness, right? The highest ability to survive and reproduce. So they're becoming more and more distinct. Those beaks become more and more specialized. So instead of getting like new beaks, you're getting, either big beaks or little beaks. So there's that drifting. And the further it drifts, the more it'll probably create a new species. Okay, Hamza, you got number 5?
Okay, so I put number 5 because they migrated to a different island.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because I just used my definition and it said if they migrate, then it's flow.
That's true. So flow, I would accept on the basis of migration. However, if I was telling you that the answer is neither, why do you think that would be true?
Maybe the islands are the same.
So somebody asked me not in the chat box, in a private message, if number 5 would be neither. Because what's happening here, look, we've got a population of rabbits, right? They exist on an island. So on an adjacent island, no rabbits. So you got a population of rabbits, an island of no rabbits. What they did was they took the rabbits from one island, cut it in half, and then put it on the other island, right? So what really has changed? The rabbits haven't changed, right? The populations are the same. So what's the one factor that has changed between taking them from one place and putting them somewhere else?
The adjacent island had rabbits, got rabbits.
Well, it didn't. It said that it has no rabbits, right? The adjacent island has no rabbits. So the rabbits are being taken from a place of rabbits to no rabbits. So here, let's see if I can draw a picture for you. So we got one island here. Let's call it Island A. And we've got another island. Let's call it Island B. So in Island A, there's already rabbits, right? We've got rabbits. On Island B, there's nothing. So we're taking the rabbit population, we're dividing it in half, and moving it over to Island B, where there are no rabbits, right? What is going to happen to that rabbit population?
Is it going to decrease?
That's true. The rabbit population will decrease on Island A because we're cutting it in half. But think of it more in an evolutionary perspective. So the person who sent me a message said that nothing's going to happen. They said that if they take the rabbits here and here, nothing has changed, right? Because the rabbit population is here. They just cut it in half. They took some, put it over here, right? What's the difference? Would you expect to see anything different happen?
I guess not, no.
Now, if we're thinking about this in a scientific way, right? Think of it like the scientific method. When we're looking at these and we're drawing a hypothesis, it's important to remember the variables, right? Let's say, for example, that you had an island that was identical in every way. Oop. Oh man, it's not going to do it. I just wanted to copy and paste it. There we go. So if we had an island that was identical, maybe then nothing would change because we've got like two islands with the same population, but this island is different, right? We don't know what's on this island. Maybe there's different vegetation. Maybe there's, a predator. There's all sorts of different factors that could make this different. So your initial answer of flow is correct. I wanted to address that misconception because just because the island doesn't have any rabbits and you're just taking a population dividing it in half, remember that the rabbit still has to adapt to its environment. It's still flowing into a new area. And so over time, you are going to get new traits. Is that confusing?
Yeah.
Hey, look, Zarya got it. Good job, Zarya. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that we understood that because someone said that nothing would happen, and I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that just because you take the same population divided in half, part of evolution has to do with them adapting to their environment, right? Survival of the fittest means that they are best adapted to their environment. If you change the environment, that means eventually you're going to change the alleles or the traits. Okay, very good. It seems like you guys weren't stopped by that. Okay, now we're going to move on to our guided practice for mechanisms of evolution. We are not going to finish this today. We're going to work on this today and tomorrow. Think of this as a mini review for your test because it covers a lot of the same material that's going to be on your test. So let's go ahead and switch to that. Oop. Yeah, just again, another reminder, you will have a multiple choice exam on Thursday. The essay will be on Friday. So this is 4 pages long, so don't freak out. We're doing this today and tomorrow. It's not due until tomorrow night, so you got a lot of time to work on it. We're going to work on it today. We're going to work on it tomorrow. This is going to be our mini test review. So first off, we got a bunch of fill in the blanks. I think it's pretty easy. So we're going to do the same thing we did last time. I'm going to ask to see if anybody knows the answer. So we're given some words here. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that a lot of them are not going to be used, but they are good words to know. So if you're into a word you don't know, it might be good to look it up, but know that we're not going to use them all. So Evidence of evolution. Evolution is change over time and is seen in what? Where do we see evolution happening? Do we see it happening in individuals or do we see it happening in populations?
Population.
Hey, very good. Lemma. All right, number 2. Structures that are similar in structure but different in function. So same form, different function. What kind of structure is that called?
Wait, is it analogous?
Why would it be that?
Similar function but different forms. Oops. That was
So
the
what would it
wrong
be?
one. Hold on.
Wait, homologies.
There you go.
Yay. Sorry, Casey.
Very good. So again, homologous, they share a common ancestor, right? So when we're looking at the bird wing, the bat wing, human arm, same bones, different function, right? Same form, different function. Which means number 3, structures that are similar in purpose but different in structure is going to be what?
Analogous.
Hey. You got it, Grace. Good job. Analogous. Okay, number 4, we're talked about early stages of development. I don't think I put this one in the keywords. But shows early stages of development similar in different organisms. We talked about embryology, right? We saw the embryos and how they were very, very similar in appearance, kind of point to a common ancestor. And I know everybody knows this one. Bones are organs that are present in an organism but are reduced in size and either have no use or have less important function than they do in other related organisms.
Vernacular structures.
Yeah, vestigial. I guarantee you are going to see a vestigial question on the star. Not necessarily going to be the appendix, but vestigial has always appeared on every star I've ever taken. And this one's easy. Last one. Most important evidence for evolution has to do with your genes. It is your DNA. I think if you wanted to use the one that they put up here, it was genetic kinship. Yeah. But those are some fancy words. DNA is the important thing. All right, types of natural selection. What are we looking at here with this graph? Type of selection in which genetic diversity decreases as the population size stabilizes on a particular trait value. What kind of selection are we looking at?
Is it a
Stable selection.
Very good, stabilizing. So remember that stabilizing favors the mean. So what that means is that the average trait is the one that's going to be the most advantageous. So not too big, not too small, just right? Just Goldilocks. All right, number 2. Here we see that the extremes are favored. Type of selection that simultaneously favors individuals with a trait that is found at one extreme of the population or another. So what is this called?
Disruptive.
Very good, disruptive. Whoop. And now this one. A type of selection that favors a single phenotype and therefore the allele frequency continues to increase. So there's a shift.
Directional.
Very good.
Directional.
Whoop. See how easy it is, man? You guys are geniuses. This test is going to be easy. All right, the speed of evolutionary changes that can differ in 2 ways. So the first, the idea that evolution occurs gradually over a long period of time.
Is that
Population.
gradualism?
It is. Good job. Gradualism. Whoop. And if that's gradualism, what's the one that occurs with periods of rapid change that are separated by periods of little or no change?
This
is a long one.
Punctuated equilibrium.
Boom. Okay, now we got a cladogram. If you don't remember, this is what a cladogram looks like. It's showing you relatedness and how traits evolve over time. So this means that it's according to the chart, amphibians have what, but not what. So you go here, you're looking at their evolution over time. What do amphibians have and not have?
Don't amphibians have bones?
They do. So they have bony skeleton. What else?
Okay, so if they do have bony skeletons, that means they don't have
Well, before we're focusing on what they don't have, what else do they have? If we know that they have bony skeletons, what else do they have?
A vertebrae?
Very good. And lastly, they have 4 limbs. So in case you don't remember how to read these, what it's showing you is that, over time, the first that evolved, vertebra. Then that's where you get the sharks. After that, bony skeleton. So you'll notice that it's past the shark. Sharks don't have bony skeletons. They have what's called a cartilaginous skeleton. A lot of their bones are actually cartilage. If we had more money, I'd like to get you a shark dissection. When I was in college, I dissected a shark, and I could pierce the skull with a very, very simple blade because the bones were very, very thin, very malleable. So they don't have bony skeletons. They have cartilaginous skeleton. If you don't know what cartilage is, it's like the stuff that's hanging off your ear, right? This is not bone. This is some hard tissue. It's cartilage. Okay, and then 4 limbs after that. So you notice that fish and sharks don't have limbs. They have fins, right, but not limbs. So that's where you get amphibians, right? They got those 4 limbs and hind limbs, or arms and legs, you might think of them. And then after that, they don't have amniotic eggs. So does anybody know what an amniotic egg is?
a what now?
Amniotic egg. So amniotic eggs are like what you cook for breakfast, right? Those hard shells that you crack and then you put it onto your pan. That's got that sac and that yolk, all that stuff. So frogs and amphibians don't have that. They have, some of them have eggs, but they're not going to be that bony kind of cracky egg that you can cook over a stove.
But aren't they known as egg that contains an amnion? They are referred to as amniotic egg. Like the amnion is a set of fluid-filled membranes. Amniotic fluid is the fluid inside the amnion that acts as a cushion to help protect the development embryo from physical danger, and the yolk sac is the structure that provides nutrients to developing an embryo.
Brandon, I didn't get what you said. Like you like too much.
So the point was that when it comes to amniotic eggs, you'll notice that primates have them too. So it's not necessarily something that just chickens have. Like when you talk about eggs and sperm, we are talking about the literal egg cell. So when it comes to amphibians, they have like, tadpoles and stuff. So they lay eggs a little bit differently. They do it differently than we do. But that just shows you how these traits arrived in time, right? Okay, so we'll pick up with this tomorrow. If you want to keep working on it, that's fine. You're not going to get through it all because there's a lot to do. But we're going to pick up with it tomorrow. For now, we're going to transition over to our exit ticket. And I hope at this point we feel really good about the mechanisms of evolution. So there is an assignment posted in Teams. I'll go ahead and copy and paste the link here for you. Boop. And let's see, have to do. So some of it will be for homework writing, some of it we're going to be doing in class. So tomorrow in class, we're not going to finish it. We're just going to do 1 or 2 other things. So if you want to go ahead and work on it, then I would encourage you to do that. Timothy, I had the same idea. That's funny. I'm not sure what you want to do, Grace. Okay. So here is your link for the exit ticket. Go ahead and get that started. I'll go ahead and put my timer back on. Remember that these need to be completed by the end of the day, preferably by the end of class. So by 3 o'clock, you should have it finished. Okay. So if you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, you are working on your exit ticket. When you are finished with your exit ticket, again, you can work on your independent practice. We will work on some of it tomorrow, but definitely not all of it. So make sure that you get as much done as you possibly can. That way you can prepare for our exam. I'll pull up the form here so I can let you know who's done. Remember that we are going to our den after this. You're not logging off. You're going to your den for SEL time. All right, Robert, I got yours. Avery, Jacob, Angel, thank you, Angel. Luis, Terrell, Michael, Miguel Gallegos, Hugo, Grace, good job, Grace. Brighton, good job. Giselle, wonderful job. Jacob, I assume this is Jacob Ibarra, since I saw Jacob Roscoe. Brandon, Kaylin. Again, you are going to your den time after this, so hang on until about 2:55, and then you'll go to your den classroom. Hamza. Amin, good job.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez, I just needed to announce real quick. A reminder to my den and Ms. Jacobo's den, we will be meeting in my geometry class because I'm combining two dens. So just like yesterday for Ms. Jacobo and my den, Ms. Carpio's den. Thank you.
No problem, thank you. Karina, Hannah, Brian. Oh, Hannah, you should try again. Nevaeh, Denise. Just a reminder, you're going to your den time after this. If you are in Carpio or Jacobo, you're going to your geometry room. Let's see, I left off with Denise, right? I guess another reminder, I do take these as daily grades, so make sure that you're getting them completed. It can really help out your grade if you're worried about passing. I'm sorry, it was Denise Buchanan. Melanie, Denise Rios, good job. Cameron, good job. Odawi. Janae. Janae, I'd recommend that you try again. Ayla. Casey. What, Casey? Why'd you miss that one? We just talked about that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna redo it because nothing would click and then it froze and I gave up. So I'm gonna redo it.
It's just the one. All the other ones are right. Timothy. Nadja. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't get it back grade. I took it, but I wanted to take it. It's almost.
Wait 1 second, I can't hear you. Say again?
So I didn't get a bad grade on the exit ticket, but I wanted to retake it because I made a small mistake, but I don't know if that could happen.
Yeah, I'm more open to it now than I was. I want y'all to do well, and if retaking it's going to help you, then by all means, go for it. Because I am taking these for a grade, so it's important for you guys to do as well as you can. That goes for you too, Gigi. Thank you, Lauren.
Hey, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Did I retake it?
How come?
Yeah, okay.
I didn't say no, I just asked why. But yeah, if you feel like you did poorly and you can do better, then for sure. Just to say one more time, I am taking these for a grade, so it's important to do well. So if there's some kind of technology thing happens, or if you think you could do better, then please let me know so that you can redo it. Like what happened to Gigi, just like that. Josiah, I got yours. Faye, good job. Lauren, good job. Joisha, fantastic. Angel, man, you guys are doing great. You guys are gonna crush this test like it's nothing. Angel Lira, Miguel Alvarado, Ayana, Gigi, Destiny Ramos, Christian, thank you, Christian. Alejandra, Destiny Ramos, I can't remember if I called you. Kiki, I got yours, good job.
Oh, so did you get mine?
I don't think I've seen yours, Alex. Oh, there it is. I got yours. Okay, it is 2:57. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Do I have to retake it or no?
No. Totally optional. If you don't want to redo it, totally fine.
Okay.
Just remember that I am taking them for a grade.
Like, I don't know what I got. Like, So that's all I was asking you.
You want me to tell you?
I mean, can you text it to me? Because I don't know if it's good or not.
Okay, I'll text it to you.
All right.
For the rest of you, it is 2:58, so you should be heading to your dens now. For those of you in Carpio or Bacobo, you're headed to the geometry room. If you're in my den, give me a second, because I got a lot going on all at once. But thank you guys for your hard work today. Thank y'all for doing your best. Remember that we do have our exam coming up soon, so make sure you're studying hard for it. Okay, so if you're in my den, you can go and join that meeting now. Bye, Faye. I hope you have an amazing day as well, and I will continue to breathe, and I hope you do too. Okay, so 2:59. I got 30 seconds, so who else? Alex, Zari, I got yours. Natalie, Hadassah, Eddie, good job, Eddie. Again, if you did not turn your exit ticket in, make sure that you get to me by 3. We do put them into the tracker to contact parents and to contact you. And like I said, I take mine as a daily grade. So please get those in. We're headed to the end of the 9-week period, which means that your grades are more important now than ever. If you do go back to try and take the mid-unit exam 1 or unit exam 1 again, let me know so I know to be on the lookout for your grade. Because again, any grade is better than a 0. Bye, Zaria. Thank you for your hard work today.
Bye, Mr. Martinez.
Bye. I'm also going to go ahead and
Bye,
hang up
sir.
this 3.
Bye, Mr. Martinez.
Bye, Jacob. Bye, Casey.
Oh, Mazari said.
Bye, Mazari.
Sir, do we go to our den?
Yeah, you're headed to your den now.
Okay.
Mazari's clapping because you said her name right.
Well, I always say Mazari name right. I'm old. I'm allowed my dumb jokes. Okay, I'll see y'all later. Bye. No. I'm kicking people out of my other meeting, and then I'm headed to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm.